It seems to me you've always been successful because you've been outspoken and direct and forthright and all this sort of thing. Does it seem a bit hard to you that people are now knocking you for this very thing?
Yes, Richard. It seems very hard. It seems hard. You know, free speech.
Christianity will go. It will vanish and shrink. I needn't argue about that. I'm right and I'll be proved right. We're more popular than Jesus now. John Lennon quoted in the London Evening Standard, March the 4th. Words which roused the Protestant fury of the American South as the Beatles began their tour of the States. In Chicago, Lennon apologized.
Well, originally I was pointed out that fact in reference to England, that we meant more to kids than Jesus did, or religion at that time. I wasn't knocking it or putting it down, I was just saying it as a fact. And it is true, especially more for England than here. You know, I'm not saying that we're better or greater or comparing us with Jesus Christ as a person or God as a thing or whatever it is. You know, I just said what I said and it was wrong or was taken wrong, and now it's all this.
Well, hi, everybody. This is Tommy Charles on the air here at WAQY Radio in Birmingham, Alabama. We've got music for you on a beautiful Thursday afternoon.
This is where the trouble all began, here in the tiny top-floor studio of station WAQY, wacky radio to the 750,000 citizens of Birmingham, Alabama. Disc jockey and station manager Tommy Charles read in Datebook magazine John Lennon's reported remarks on Christianity, remarks that had gone almost unnoticed in the 5 months since they were first published in Britain. Charging that Lennon's remarks were absurd and sacrilegious, Charles banned Beatles records from his programs and decided to build a mammoth bonfire to consume the group's records and souvenirs. Tommy, why this violent reaction to what John Lennon said?
Well, I wouldn't call exactly what I have done a violent reaction. However, the Beatles for a long time have been able to, because of their tremendous popularity throughout the world, especially with the younger set, have been able to say whatever they wanted to without any regard for judgment or maturity or the wisdom of it. And no one yet has challenged them to any tremendous degree where it might count or where they might feel it.
Wasn't this a challenge like this, though? Wasn't this a serious article asking John Lennon how he felt about things? Wasn't he just being honest?
I suppose. You never can tell about him. His answers are so flippant, and his attitude is so bizarre in many instances that you never know whether he's honest or not. And honesty is a relative matter to the seriousness of the moment or the mood of the person. It would be the same as if an American group such as myself or an American singing group sounded off on the Queen and really took her to task and said who needs her and she's on her way out, and the system of having a king and a queen is ridiculous and it's shrinking and going to fade.
Tommy, you're quoted as saying that though you're 36, you think like a teenager. Did you find your teenage listeners backed you up on your stand?
They did. For 3 hours, our 3 phone lines lit up, and they responded, and they said, get rid of the Beatles, ban the records, let's burn them or do something with them. And we acted, of course, on our own convictions, but we were backed up by the people, especially the younger people of this area.
Are you ever going to play Beatles records again?
We might. We might.
What'll decide you?
I don't know. I was asked this by the Capitol record people who released their records in this country. Brian Epstein wanted to know when we were going to take the ban off because it seemed that everybody was waiting for us to make the move. And they wanted to know what it would take. And I said, well, I don't have a price. It's not something that I'm waiting for the Beatles to do. I just don't know. I want them to make me change my mind about them. I want to see I want to see them grow up a little bit, I guess.
Birmingham people supported Tommy Charles' ban on Beatles records, and in the Bible Belt, some 40 other radio stations followed his lead. Worried that far-right extremist groups might try to become involved, Charles cancelled his plans for a Beatle bonfire, but many teenagers sent in their records and souvenirs to wacky radio nevertheless. Most of the young people I spoke to seemed shocked and offended at what John Lennon had said, though sometimes their answers showed that they weren't altogether certain what he'd meant.
How do you feel about what John Lennon said?
Well, I think the Beatles are a real talented group, but I think that they need to watch what they say because they're in such a position that a lot of teenagers really think of them as something really big, and And when they say things like that, some teenagers are going to just believe anything they say.
But are you burning your Beatles records?
Yes, sir, I burn them.
You burned them all yourself?
I've already burned them.
How did you do it? I mean, where? How?
Well, our Sunday school at NYF, we had a program about the Beatles, and we had supper at NYF, and it was in our backyard. So after we'd finished cooking the hot dogs, I just put my records on there.
Yeah, I used to like them. Well, I still like them, I guess. I mean, I like the way they write, but every time I hear them sing, I can't help but think about what they said, so. I don't know, I guess it sort of hurt. You know, it sort of hurt people's feelings that, because, you know, everybody thinks so much of them, and because, you know, they were sort of, you know, the speaking for the teenager, and everybody thought they were so good and all that. And then they come up with something like this, and it just sounds like they're making fun of everything that we like, so.
You took it pretty hard.
Yeah, I didn't appreciate it. Well, what John Lennon said really didn't have any effect on me because, well, I think for myself, and there's certainly no comparison between Jesus Christ and John Lennon because I don't think that Christ came to be popular. As a matter of fact, he was one of the most unpopular people that have ever been alive. And there is no connection between the two.
I mean, I think most people are Christians and believe in God, and I'm just not used to this sort of thing.
You feel it's pretty shocking?
I sure do. I just don't appreciate it, and know that nobody in the United States does either.
Why are people so angry about it down here then?
Well, a lot of people are good Baptists down here, and not to say anything against them, it's just that they feel everything about religion, they take it very personally, and maybe this intense feeling is too much, but that's what they feel.
Yes, I have 2 albums, and I definitely am going to get rid of them.
But why do you feel so strongly?
Well, I think every person should believe as he sees fit, and I just believe that I think I'm going to get rid of them.
But how about John Lennon? Hasn't he got the right to have his own opinion?
Yes, but I've got the right to have mine too. So I just think I'm going to get rid of my albums.
Why do you feel so strongly about it?
Because I'm a Christian, and so many people have built buildings in the name of Christ, and what have people done for the Beatles? What have they done for us? We've done more for them. We don't owe them a thing, and we can't just sit back and take it.
That I don't think they were comparing themselves to Jesus. I think they were deploring the fact that teenagers, you know, like rock and roll better than Christianity.
But John did call the Christ disciples thick and ordinary. Isn't that a pretty offensive thing to say?
Well, not really. I think I agree with them.
Were you upset by what they said?
Yes, sir. I was real upset. My whole family was. They couldn't believe that they had said that.
Why were you so shocked?
Well, I mean, I go to church and I listen to what people say, and I believe enough to, when something like that happens, for it to upset me.
Did you have any Beatles records yourself?
Yes, sir. I had about 4 albums and a lot of 45s, and I don't have them anymore.
What have you done with them?
I've given them to Wacky.
Well, I know in our church, a Baptist church here in Birmingham, well, our church took a firm stand. Sunday in the morning worship service, the chairman of the deacons made a statement which the deacons in our church had agreed upon, backing the statement that Wacky had said that to ban the Beatles. They thought that this was good, and they firmly believe in everything that can be done to just about ruin the Beatles.
You want to ruin the Beatles?
Well, it really doesn't matter. I think it might be funny, but I guess that's sort of ugly of me.
Linda, you run this record store. How many Beatles records were you selling before this row started?
Oh, quite a few.
And since?
They've dropped off considerably because, I mean, maybe one a day, maybe one a week.
The store hasn't thought of banning Beatles records?
No. Of course not. We promote anything that sells.
You don't have moral principles like this?
No, well, in other words, whatever sells, we're not questioning. We have many artists here. If we were to go into questioning everyone's morals in every record that we have, it wouldn't pay. I mean, we just wouldn't be in business, you know.
The Baptist and Methodist churches each claim over 10 million members in America, and in the South, their influence is strongest. At Canterbury Methodist Church in a smart Birmingham suburb, I asked Pastor Alan Montgomery why he'd got involved by condemning John Lennon.
The part of his statement that I was concerned with was that the Beatles were more popular than Jesus. And I think simply on the basis of statistics and fact, his statement is untrue. No one is more popular than Jesus.
After you'd issued your statement, you had a telephone conversation with Brian Epstein, the Beatles manager. What was that about?
In his conversation, he wanted me to understand that this young man was a very fine and a very religious young man, according to him, and that what he had to say regarding the church and regarding the popularity of Jesus, he meant to refer only to England and to the people of England and the Church of England, that he had no reference to America or whatever. Mm-hmm. This was, in essence...
How did the conversation go on?
Well, it got down to a place where perhaps was a little sticky. He said to me, "Do you think it becoming of anybody in Birmingham to criticize the Beatles? Because Birmingham is known all over Europe as the place where the Negro is treated so badly." Well, I thought these two things were far apart, and of course that was not the purpose of his call. It was a defensive mechanism on his part, and I thought it was perfectly meaningless and shouldn't have been inserted into this.
Would you tell your young people not to listen to the Beatles now?
I have 4 daughters in my home, 4 children who are daughters, and they all listen to the Beatles, and I don't think what has happened is going to cause them not to listen. My younger ones, who are 7 and 8 years of age, have Beatle pictures drawn on their little sports shirts, you know, and I'm not going to throw those away.
Not so reluctant to urge teenagers to throw away their treasured Beatles possessions was the Ku Klux Klan. With bonfires of books and records, this one was at Longview, Texas, they seized the opportunity to show their Christian zeal. It seemed odd to find the Klan leading the campaign. I put this to the imperial wizard, Robert Shelton.
Well, this is from the misconception of many people throughout the world that the basic philosophies and the beliefs of the Klan has always been to uphold Christianity. And it's certainly distasteful, since this is the Bible Belt of the nation, particularly in the southern part of America, to have Parliament to pass laws and ban myself from England when at the same time these individuals that want to vilify Christ can come to America and still continue collecting their sums of money. I think this, again, is a dangerous trend, and I'm not saying this in ridicule of the English people because I have many friends in England, but I think that they themselves are concerned with the development of socialism, which we can realize that once you have socialism enacted, it graduates into the scale of communism.
The Klan's taken issue with the Beatles on the remarks they made about Christianity, but wasn't it their remarks about civil rights and colour that annoyed you more, really?
Well, I don't have any knowledge of... it's hard for me to tell through the mop-heads and all of the conglomeration that they have whether they're even white or black myself. I couldn't prove to you whether they're white or black from their appearances and from the conglomeration of the colors that they're involved. I couldn't identify them as whether they're actually white or black. I don't have that knowledge. I don't have any knowledge of their involvement in civil rights. The only attitude I could assume that they're interested in one thing, and that's the greenback dollar and what money they could get. If it would be popular to be black, I'm sure they'd consider themselves black. If it's popular to be white, they'd be white. All they're after is the fast buck that they can get.
The Beatles' tour took them to only one city in the Bible Belt, Memphis, Tennessee, home of the blues and of Elvis Presley. Here, old-time religion is a reality, and the city commissioners had already tried to cancel the Beatles' visit. Here, if anywhere on the tour, the group would need protection from religious zealots.
We have a detail today that we hope that each and every one of you will participate in as gentlemen and officers. Whether you like your detail or whether you do not like your detail, if you don't like it, tomorrow let us know about it. We hope that you will treat any teenager with all respect that is possible, but still be demanding in whatever you instruct that person to do, see that it's carried out.
Now, you officers that are stationed in front of the stage behind the barricade, you will go to Mr. Morris Shapiro, the first aid man, and he will furnish you with earplugs so as to keep you from having a headache. If he runs out of earplugs, he has got some cotton. You can use that. We have a detention room set up within the Coliseum by Mr. Jim Oshus, That detention room is room D. It is behind the stage. Any person that you arrest or bring downstairs for ejection will be brought to room D. Is that understood? You will take the names, the addresses, and the telephone numbers. We will not allow any dancing, running up and down the aisles, or crowding up in front of the stage. All these parties will be warned and ejected from the Coliseum. Is that clear with everybody? Thank you.
As the Beatles' charter plane arrived, it taxied away from the hundreds of fans waiting at the terminal to a deserted part of the runway used only by the National Guard. A mere half-dozen teenagers evaded the stringent security arrangements. Concerned about their visit to the South, the Beatles could at least take comfort from the success of the tour so far. With only half their concerts over, they had already grossed over $500,000, and their latest single, Yellow Submarine, had sold 1 million.
Is that your first trip south?
No, we've been to Texas before.
Where are you going when you leave here?
I'm Cincinnati, that's it.
Cincinnati, and
Yeah.
how long are you going to be in the States?
About two more weeks.
2 more weeks?
Yes.
What did you have for lunch?
Oh, I didn't eat much. Anyway, I must go, it's getting boiling.
All right, thank you very much. Hey, give it 2.
Even the few teenagers who broke the police cordon never saw the Beatles. At the last moment, the police moved the group's transport onto the tarmac and left the heartbroken fans far behind.
The police lied. What did they lie about, honey?
They told us they'd come down there where we could see them.
And you came all the way out here? Now, do you have a ticket for the show tonight?
Yes.
Well, are you going to the afternoon or evening performance?
The evening.
And who do you say lied to you?
The police did.
What did they tell you, honey?
They told us they'd come down there.
And they wouldn't let you come down here? Is that anything to cry over?
When you wait 2.5 years, it is.
In the 2 shows at the Coliseum, the Beatles hoped for an audience of 26,000. But as the fans began to arrive, it was clear that the first house was not sold out. Only days before, religious groups in the city had decided to hold a revivalist rally on the same date to demonstrate that here Christianity was no spent force. Outside the Coliseum, this small band of small demonstrators was the only sign of protest visible. At the Beatles' press conference, the questioning was friendly. The young people here were fan club officials and school magazine reporters. The only man to raise the religious issue was shouted down. All the same, the Beatles had been worried about their Memphis date. In their dressing room, I talked to them about it.
What difference has all this row made to this tour, do you think? Any at all? Paul?
I don't think it's made much difference. It's made it more hectic. It's made all the press conferences mean a bit more. People said to us, last time we came, our answers were a bit flippant. And they said, why isn't it this time? Well, the thing is, the questions are a bit more serious this time. It hasn't affected any of the bookings. The bookings have been, the people coming to the concerts have been the same, except for the first show in Memphis, which was a bit down, but so what?
The disc jockey, Tommy Charles, who started this row off, has said that he won't play your records until you've grown up a little. How do you feel about that?
Well, I don't mind if he never plays them again.
You see, this is the thing, everyone seems to think that when they hear us say things like this, that we're so childish, you can't say things like that unless you're a silly little child.
And if he was grown up, he wouldn't have done the thing, because he only did it for a stunt anyway. So, who's he to say about growing up? Who is he?
Who is this guy?
Just who? Apart from that, it's great.
Having a swinging tour?
Do you feel that Americans are out to get you, that this is all developing into something of a witch hunt?
No, we thought it might be that kind of thing. I think a lot of people in England did, because there's this thing about, when America gets violent, gets very hung up on a thing, it tends to have this sort of Ku Klux Klan thing around it.
It seems to me you've always been successful because you've been outspoken and direct and forthright and all this sort of thing. Does it seem a bit hard to you that people are now knocking you for this very thing?
Yes, Richard. It seems hard. It seems hard. Free speech.
But is it possible just to say what you think all the time? What about 14-year-old teenagers who think you're absolutely marvellous and can't bear to be heard?
See, we're not. When we say anything like that, we don't say it older people seem to think to be offensive. We mean it helpfully, And if it's wrong, what we say, okay, it's wrong, and people can say, you're wrong about that one. But in many cases, we believe it's right. We're quite serious about it.
But do you mind being asked questions? For example, in America, people keep asking you questions about Vietnam. Does this seem useful?
Well, I don't know. If you can say that war's no good and a few people believe you, then it may be good. I don't know. You can't say it too much, though. That's the trouble.
It seems a bit silly to be in America and for none of them to mention Vietnam as if nothing was happening.
But why should they ask you about it? You're successful entertainer.
That is the thing.
Because Americans always ask showbiz people what they think about it. So do the British, Showbiz, you know how it is. But I mean, you've just got to, you can't just keep quiet about anything that's going on in the world unless you're a monk. Sorry, monks, I didn't mean it. I meant actually.
From their dressing room in the immediate security area, the Beatles emerged to play their second show, each step of the way closely watched by Captain Barney Hitt's police, 82 men, all on overtime at 30 shillings an hour. While the Beatles played and teenage girls reacted as they do all over the world, other emotional scenes were taking place on the other side of the city.
Concerning the purpose of this rally, I thank God Jesus Christ is popular with me because he saved me 31 years ago. And everybody here tonight, he's popular with you. Say amen, huh?
The rally proved an impressive demonstration of the strength of religious feeling among the young people of Memphis. Equally, with their second show a virtual sellout, the Beatles proved that their popularity was still unshakable.
It doesn't matter about people not liking our records or not liking the way we look or what we say. They're entitled to not like us, and we're entitled not to have anything to do with them if we don't want to, or not to regard them. We've all got our rights, Harold.